Our Advent theme this year is Home for Christmas. And when you think about home for Christmas, I think you probably think of more than just a building. You probably think of the people you are with at home. With and home go closely together. Just a few moments ago, we heard the choir sing one of the most famous songs of Christmas. I'll Be Home for Christmas was written by Kim Gannon and Walter Kent, but is most closely associated with Bing Crosby, who recorded it in 1943. I remember it as that opening scene of the classic Christmas movie, White Christmas, which Courtney makes me watch every year. I can do it every couple years. Every year is a bit much. But you know that scene. He's there in the war. He's singing, I'll Be Home for Christmas. Gannon and Kent had approached several other singers to record the song, but they all rejected singing it because it was so crushingly sad. I'll Be Home for Christmas was written well into World War II when an estimated 16 million Americans, or about 11% of the population, were serving in the armed forces. There was hardly a home in the country that didn't have a conspicuously empty place at the dinner table during the holiday season. And the loneliness of being separated during Christmas was universally felt. People weren't with those they loved. The song is sung from the point of view of a soldier stuck far away from home and hoping, though not optimistically, to return home for Christmas. The final line, if only in my dreams, speaks of the reality that they are not home yet and won't be anytime soon. They were homesick, and their loved ones at home were homesick for them, because home wasn't the same without them. Have you ever been homesick? Where were you? What did that feel like? I was homesick at Camp Ho-Na-Wah on the coast of South Carolina. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was an important spiritual lesson, what it feels like to not be home. It's the first Sunday of Advent, and one way to think of this season is that Advent reminds us that we are not home. To say it differently, Advent reminds us of what being home would look like. When we realize what home is really like, we recognize that we aren't there yet. And that can be painful. We have a sense of longing, and so we wait. Psalm 137 is a psalm from exile. If you remember exile, it was one of the most formative experiences for Israel. The kingdom of Babylon overthrew Jerusalem and marched the leaders of Israel back to Babylon. And there they stayed. They weren't with many of their loved ones. They weren't with the temple. They weren't with all those places that they had been a part of for generations. It's a psalm of grief. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept. They weep because they aren't home anymore. They've been ripped from the old home place, and it breaks their hearts. And so they remember, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand wither, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth, if I do not remember you, O Jerusalem. They are homesick. I remember sitting on the porch of my canvas tent at Boy Scout camp down on that South Carolina coast. It was my first real week-long summer camp experience. Do you remember summer camp? There was a store where I could get ice cream, those delicious orange Flintstones push pops. Just put it on my tab. They had archery and canoeing and swimming. I carved a really bad Scout neckerchief slide that looked like no animal God would ever create. I had looked forward to summer camp. But when I got there, I discovered something that was not in the brochure. I was homesick. I was crying in your pillow at night, homesick. And there wasn't much that helped. I didn't care that there was ice cream with dinner every night. I didn't care that I had friends around or that we played way too much with fire and bug spray to make those fire torches. That's really not safe. Don't do that. The only thing that mattered was home. That's Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept. They're homesick. But here's the thing. Home is not some place we used to be. We aren't trying to get home again. The truth is, we have never been home. The place where we are who we were always meant to be. The place where things are how they're supposed to be. It's not yet for us. The season of Advent is not simply preparation for Christmas. Advent is a reminder that we are not home. The home for all of us is a day we have yet to know, but it is a time we can trust because now and then God gives us glimpses of home. It's those glimpses that make us homesick, which is actually a good thing. We are longing for home. There are a lot of voices that say the world as it is good enough. But Christianity says we are not home until all that has gone wrong in us and in the world is made right. The only faithful posture for us to take in the meantime is to yearn for home, to try to make right what we can, to mourn what we can't, and not forget what our real home looks like. But home is not something we go back to. We're looking forward to home. When we get worship right, we remind ourselves what home looks like. We are practicing the life that God intends for us. We don't get it perfect, but without it, we might forget what we are looking for and mistakenly assume we have already found home. We're right where we need to be. All is well, all is right. Sometimes we get glimpses of the promised day that God intends and that we live toward. Do you ever catch glimpses of home in worship? Maybe it's during a particular moving choral piece when the voices and the organ mixes just right, and you can imagine the heavenly chorus in heaven singing, and it just gives you those goosebumps, and you're lifted. Maybe it's seeing candle by candle light up the dark sanctuary on Christmas Eve, everyone offering their light in the dark. Maybe it's receiving communion bread and the cup from a neighbor and then sharing it to the person next to you. Do you catch glimpses of home? One of my favorite sounds is my children's laughter. They can laugh over almost anything. They may be playing Ring Around the Rosie or just burst into a fit of laughter because deciding achoo is the funniest word in the world, and they'll just make each other laugh and laugh. Sometimes in the moment, I don't realize what I'm experiencing. But I'm catching a glimpse of a day that is coming, a day when laughter will ring out and joy will fill the air. Faith lives on glimpses. I don't know that we ever get more than that, but we do get glimpses of what God is doing among us and what God intends for us. When I was at Boy Scout camp, my dad came down to stay about halfway through the week, and he brought a thermos of the sweet tea we always had at home. It was that Lipton lemon brown powder stuff you dump into water. It's really unhealthy, but it's delicious and bad for you. He brought this old green giant thermos, and I just guzzled it down. It was so sweet and familiar. It was a taste, a glimpse of home, and it was enough. I get glimpses of home. Last year at Steve Miller's memorial service, the sanctuary was packed, and I could sense overwhelming love. In the midst of tears and heartbreak, I had goosebumps and hope and even joy because I caught a glimpse of home, a community that was with and for each other, that showered love and support. I get glimpses of home. We had our Elton John Engage service last year, and we were worshiping God with such energy and excitement. Dan's on the piano with a feather boa and glasses, and people are holding their phones up with candles, and there was just palpable energy and joy and worship. I catch glimpses of home. Have you caught a glimpse of home? Over the last few weeks, we've had our children and our youth lead worship here at Derry. You see these kids joining their voices to sing or remind us that we are many members but one body. The youth share their hope, dance their hope with passion and joy and authenticity. And you see all of you support them. I get glimpses of home. I hope you do too. And yet, we are not home yet. And sometimes it seems so far away it makes you weep. But even with tear-filled eyes, pay attention, for God will give you a glimpse of home. And that glimpse, it'll make you homesick. It will make you long for the day when everyone is home. Another word for that holy homesickness is hope. And this table we are about to eat, it's a glimpse, it's a foretaste of the heavenly banquet we will all share when we are all home. It's that glimpse of that table where there is a place for everyone, and people come from north and south, east and west to gather at the table where everyone eats the same thing, where everyone's welcome, where everyone's loved, where we are with one another, those we have loved all our lives and those we have missed for far too long. We are with each other at that table, breaking bread and sharing the cup. And this table right here, it's a glimpse. It's a foretaste, a reminder of home that's waiting for all of us. On this first Sunday of Advent, with the light of the candle of hope, may the bread and may the cup give you a taste of that hope and fill you with hope until the day we are home.